Hi everyone, Darren Hunter here. I'm with Michael Sanz, and this is the Outsourced PM podcast show. Michael, we've had some really good podcasts so far. You told me before you're getting some good feedback. What have you been hearing about what people have been learning?
So many people, Darren, have reached out and said, I've just heard the podcast. I've listened to episode 1 and 2, and just the amount of information that they're gathering from it. They never actually realized the ins and outs of working with a virtual assistant, complexities around it, how I did things, how other people doing things, and the amount of calls, Darren, we're getting is just ridiculous. It's like we've opened up Pandora's box, and everyone is seeing the light that there's better ways that they can be doing their business and have more time for their clients.
Yeah, I've seen your calendar. Certainly, people are been booking in, and certainly on the podcast here with the, you can go to hello@teamsbydesign.com and book in to speak to Michael. But today we want to talk about hiring a virtual assistant, because there's a lot of people out there, their appetites have been whet through listening to these podcasts about putting on a virtual assistant, or they maybe got one and want to put on another. And a lot of people may not have worked with a virtual assistant before. And there are some steps to go through that if you're wanting to employ your own virtual assistant. Now, Michael, you've been working with virtual assistants now since when?
Early 2000s.
Okay. So just very quickly run through some of the different countries where people can go to possibly source a virtual assistant outside of Australia if they want to do that. Where can they go?
There's so many highly skilled people globally that have been working from home for such a long time, freelancing, and there's all those websites that allow you to tap into that. But we looked at, outsourcing tasks in India, Mexico, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, UK. And then we found that certain countries had certain strong skills attached to them. I found creatively that Eastern Europe was quite strong. I found that it's more transactional, working with people based out in India, because they're just used to kind of getting through the projects and delivering. Mexico was fine, bit of a time difference, but still, I settled with the Philippines, as you know, because time zone was comparable, customer service is exceptional. They take the time with people. A lot of them are highly skilled. I mean, a lot of the people have got university degrees. It's, I said to someone this morning that a lot of them are probably far more book educated than the property managers that are in the office. So common sense is what has to kick in. And, the Philippines has just been accessible to us. You can find lawyers there, Darren. We've placed legal assistants, estimators for builders. It's such a rich place for highly qualified people.
It is, and accountants, bookkeepers, everything. I agree, and certainly their westernization is exceptional, and it does tick a lot of boxes. So I think with this podcast, we are going to focus on the Philippines. That is the most popular, certainly for Australian and New Zealand real estate officers when it comes to hiring virtual assistants and your work that you're doing in the United Kingdom. I know our American friends do like to prefer to go to Mexico because of the time zone. But that's only if you have to have a virtual assistant working in your time zone. If you're really smart, you can still work very effectively with Filipinos. So let's just talk about the 5 steps that if a person does want to recruit their own virtual assistant. Let's go through the 5 steps here, Michael. And after number 1, how do people going to the Philippines online, because you're not going to be able to jump on a plane at the moment and go there. How do they advertise to find a virtual assistant?
You really have to make sure that you're getting in front of as many eyeballs as possible. And you're talking about a country that's got over 100 million people spread across hundreds of islands, different socioeconomic regions, high poverty, high worth, built up areas, farming areas. So when you're hiring, Darren, I've got to say, it can be a real headache when you're hiring for someone in your office, and it can be an exceptional headache when you're hiring someone that's not in your office in another country and you don't know the lay of the land. There is a difference hiring someone from a province as there is from in a city, as far as power, internet, accessibility and things like that. So what's really important is that we're getting our message and our job description in front of as many qualified people as possible. Us understanding the regions and where everyone is from makes it easier for us, to interpret the type of person we're going to find. We advertise on numerous job posting websites. We advertise in front of numerous Facebook and social media groups. Darren, when we post a job, it gets listed in front of somewhere between 1 to 1.5 million people.
Wow.
Right, that are active on Facebook, spread across different groups. That in itself has its own problems. So I would just encourage anyone that's looking to go and start advertising to find a VA out there in the Philippines. Research, know the lay of the land, know the groups that you're targeting into, because that will make a massive difference to your search criteria.
And I know the Teams by Design Messenger gets a lot of traffic from those ads, right? And probably the most traffic that I've seen, and your team manages that really well. But just to know, if you are going to do that and you're able to put your ads in front of, millions of people, then you're going to get a lot of messages that you need to sort. So let's just move to that now. So step 2 is, once you've got people that have inquired, 10, 20, 50, what are some tips around sorting those applicants out?
One of the things I noticed when applications were coming in from a very early stage is they all use the same, not all, so many people use the same word template for a resume. And I noticed that they don't all put what's relevant and their basic skill and their general skill sets of what they would excel at on there. They put on their resume schools that you never would have heard of before, Darren, universities you wouldn't have known are in existence, suburbs and cities that you would have to Google on a map to find where they're located. So I think for anyone looking to recruit a virtual assistant and they get flooded with resumes, you're going to have a hard time dissecting where they're from unless you put the time into research. Again, like we know where everyone is located, and we know the schools and we know all that information, but that's come with experience. That we then need to identify, okay, well, on the resume they've given us, is there enough information there to make them qualify for the role that we're looking for? And like in Australia, like in New Zealand, like in America, like in the UK, no one is really taught how to put a good resume together. So we have to make some awareness around that. And you're looking for attributes. You're looking for skill sets that would be convertible into real estate, because you're not going to find a unicorn out there, very rarely would you, that has Australian or New Zealand or UK or American real estate experience. So you've got to start looking at their previous history, previous experience. They're not known on their resume for putting their best foot forward. They're not people that really stand up and say, "Hey, I excel at these tasks," until you get them into an interview. But if you're getting slammed with all these resumes, you need to work out what is the best resume. How do I figure that out? We have tricks, Darren, on our job adverts where we have random questions like, what color is your favorite unicorn? Or what's your last book? Or what motivated you from a movie scene that you've seen the last 10 years, right? Just randomly in there. And we also tell them they've got to message us in certain pages and so on, so we know they're paying attention to the ad. We also now use a funnel system of a series of questions. Like when people go to apply, they've got to answer about 30 different questions. They've got to upload certain test results. There's a number of things that they have to do. And then when we get that information, Darren, we then have to sift through that. We ask for audio files, video files, previous experience.
Let's go into that, Michael. Let's talk about that, because step 3 is now running the tests. And I know that you guys, for all the experience that you've got dealing with so many people over so many years, you've got a set rigid system of the tests that you put people through. And this is from your experience of all the trial and error and problems that you had in the past. So let's talk about in detail. Let's go through exactly what these tests are.
Some of them are, I guess, would be simple common sense tests like typing speed, accuracy, typing, because that's important. Spelling. We have attention to detail tests. We have the obvious disc profile tests, which is interesting. I mean, you can learn a lot about a disc profile. So sometimes people answer questions differently and more uniquely. We also have like a strengths test, Darren. So a strengths test in addition with the DISC profile. So the DISC profile will tell me how likely you are to engage with someone, and in critical moment, would you be strong enough to kind of take a bit of a commanding position in the situation. We also have a strengths test, which tells us that in these critical situations, are you a decision maker? Are you someone that needs leadership to follow? Are you someone that is more empathetic, sympathetic? So we have this test that gives us 100 of your attributes, and we look at the top 5, top 10 of them, and then that helps us say, okay, well, you're best for a phone role. You're best, in a creative environment. You're best for a non-speaking role. You've got good admin skills, but maybe you're too shy or too scared to be on the phone. And the DISC profile alone, if you're doing that, I think it's a waste. It's got to be done with a strengths test. You need to understand it and be able to interpret it. Darren, there's a number of books that people want to know, the Audible books for how to interpret the strengths test. It'll take you a few hours to really get your head around it, but worthwhile doing. And so once we've gone through a series of tests, we then do audio tests, so voice tests, listen to accent, clarity, pace, speed of voice. We also look at video, because we want to see that if you're doing Zoom with your virtual assistant all the time, or they're meeting with clients, you want to make sure they present well. You also want to make sure that they have a clean work environment too. So we do some assessments on where's their computer set up, how many screens they have, what's the speed of the computer and the RAM and everything that's important there. And Darren, to do that, we actually do a Zoom with them, and they have to share their screen live, and they have to test their internet speed several times throughout the interview. So we see that they have consistent internet speeds. We also need to see their actual workplace. So they open up their computer specs. We need to see that. So we don't just rely on them telling us. We need to see that also.
Well, what's important, the computer specs? Why is that important? And internet speed as well. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, the computer specs are really important. Darren, I know you're like me. We have multiple screens. We have a series of tabs open. I know you've got a special program that helps with your tabs, but I would have, 40 tabs open across 2 or 3 screens. And to do that, the computer needs to be able to have enough RAM and a good processing speed so that it's not shutting down all the time. Also, I don't think that real estate can really be done with one screen either. We offer our team members interest-free loans when they need to upgrade their computer specs. If they need new microphones, we'll provide that. We really kind of help them to make sure that the right candidate has the right tools to be working with the clients. But of course, Darren, sometimes our clients need, our team member to have more screens or a faster computer for whatever reason. And so the clients typically chip in there and help. The internet speed is also important, but mine is 100, let's say. A lot of the people that we interview is like 1,000. It is just insane. But also, you're not going to get those type of speeds in provinces. They're in built up areas. But the internet is insanely fast. You can get dropouts depending on where they are, and you kind of factor that into your day-to-day. Once the candidate has done all the series of tests, and we've now our HR team, we've kind of gone through and said, yes, out of these 400 applicants, here are 5 that we're going to look at interviewing, right? Those other people that have applied doesn't mean that we're knocking them back from other roles. We're just trying to find the best of a bad bunch. Darren, it was like when Dennis and I went over to the Philippines 2 years ago when we were putting on the Reva course over there, the real estate virtual assistant. The idea was to educate as many virtual assistants in that room as possible on real estate, and for us to find the very best people in the room, knowing that maybe out of a full room, we're only going to find one unicorn in there.
And we did.
I mean, Beth, right? She's been with us for two years now.
Yeah, and she's a brilliant executive assistant for me. I'm really, really blown away. You're right. It is.
And you know what? Like I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were saying they were talking to another virtual assistant company, and that they could give them a virtual assistant that is good with graphics, social media, bookkeeping, accounting, admin, attention to detail, one person, like one person. Darren, I can't even find someone in office that is great. You're analytical, and those are like, they're creative. Where, like, yes, you
can. I'm thinking, I know I sit on the outside of what you do, and I'm thinking that's impossible, knowing with our team that we've got a graphic artist, and we've also got a social media person. We've got people specialized in those roles, but boy, oh boy, trying to do several roles, I don't think that's possible.
It's also capacity. People have a misconception that they'll hire one virtual assistant and then all of a sudden they'll slam them with 80 hours of work in the week, so then they don't have to. You're a business owner. You are prepared to do 60, 70 hours, but you're not going to find that unicorn. So part of our process in recruiting, Darren, is working out that this person, out of the 10 tasks that you need done, they're going to excel at the 7 or 8 or 6 of those tasks. They'll do that really exceptionally well. And then we're able to also provide, if you needed graphics and social media, we have that team. We can do that ad hoc for people. So it's, again, when you are recruiting, when you're out there doing this on your own, you need to take all this into consideration, hiring for the skill that you need, and the experience, and know that you're going to have to put some time in to train them.
All right, so let's just keep on moving. This is a funnel. We've got lots and lots of people going in at the top, coming down. We're sorting through the applications. We're now running the test, which sorts people even further. So we got less people than when we started. Now we're moving to interviews. And you've said the best way to start, Michael, is with group interviews. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, so we typically would do a number of group interviews because we want to see how people interact in a team environment, because everyone's working from home and remote. They're not working in an office and all collectively together. So we're mindful of mental health. We're mindful that people need to be able to engage. We're mindful that people might be shy in their first interview also while they're reading the room. We're looking for people that aren't scared to put their hand up, say how everything is going. People who can interact in a group setting, very important, because again, they're meeting with multiple different clients and tasks and team members and staff. From that, which we pay really close attention to, and it's okay if people aren't so much jumping their hand up. We're watching their body language. We're watching how they contribute. From that, we then arrange one-on-one interviews with the team. So they go from a group to a one-on-one. And then from that, if we're happy from that interview, then they go into a meeting pool. So a meeting pool is when we go to introduce potential team members to a client, we try to have in a meeting pool between 2 and 5 people, so the client can get a feel for the type of candidate. Now, Darren, once we've done our interviews and we've selected people into the meeting pool, I am happy to employ every single one of those people. Like, I will employ them. I'm happy to place them. It really becomes now a personality test with, would this person get on well with your office? Are they the right fit for your team? Because you're not always going to find someone that's going to gel with the team. They may have everything you need, the attributes, but for whatever reason, it's not going to gel. And that is okay. So we try to find different personalities with great skill sets, ability to learn, coachable, and so on, so that the client has a choice. I think where people fail when they're doing this on their own, Darren, is they're not going through a joint meeting process. They're only doing interviews individually, one-on-one. And sometimes people would just say what you want to hear. In that, it's very easy to fall down that trap. And so it's harder to pick up the BS.
Yeah. So just in summary again, step 1, we're advertising the job position. Step 2, sorting out the applicants. Step 3, we're then running the tests. We then move to group interviews. And from there, it's the one-on-ones. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So then we're getting pretty much down to the point, like any recruitment position, whether we're recruiting locally as well in Australia or New Zealand or the UK, of course, it's now decision time from there. And that's really the 5 steps if you want to go and source a virtual assistant. But Michael, there are some inherent issues around dealing with a virtual assistant and employing them direct, as opposed to dealing with an organization like Teams by Design. Now, yes, you're going to pay a little bit more than, so if you employed a VA direct as opposed to dealing with a management company. But what are the issues and problems of doing it yourself as opposed to using a experienced company such as Teams by Design? What are some of the issues that people really need to be aware of?
Yeah, I think when you touch on paying a virtual assistant, people don't be lured by a cheaper alternate cost, because Philippines has a minimum wage of about $1.80 or something an hour, right? And I know people that are in the industry that are paying their staff members, their virtual assistants, minimum wage, and I find that extremely appalling. So don't be lured by a low cost like that, because they have got cost of living, they have got standards, and they do need to put food on their table. Also, too, you need to take into consideration things like other incentives, and like medical insurance, when they're sick, if they're going on holiday, and so on. So these are all prices that you need to factor in. Yes, going through a recruitment agency is a little bit more expensive, but you get the weight of like recruitment teams, that we have a HR team, we have quality assurance team, people that listen to every single phone call and make sure that the message, the empathy, the sympathy, everything is as it should be. We've got team leaders for each region. So Australia, New Zealand, UK, we have people that oversee the team. We have supervisors that then oversee the entire team. We have accountants, bookkeepers, we have graphic artists, social media experts, video editors, website experts. So when you're dealing with a company like ours, Darren, you're tapping into so much more than just a single individual virtual assistant. Then, Darren, you've got to manage that assistant. If you're going on your own, you got to manage the assistant. You've got to be mindful of cultural awareness. You've got to be mindful how to teach, coach, train, give the attention, the communication, everything. We have all that built in. We have chat platforms, communication. We have all that, but that's what we do, Darren. We're the experts in it.
So, Michael, let's say a person's managed to go and get their own virtual assistant. What if that person's sick or wants to go on annual leave, or has to go on leave? What do they do as opposed to what can Teams by Design do?
Look, depending on how good the information is that the client's given us on how they want their tasks to do, we'll compile a manual so that if someone is sick or annual leave, if it's annual leave, we know we may have someone available to step in and handle those urgent tasks. Depending on the size of the company, they may have 1.5 or 2 people working on their team, and so in which case you've always got someone there operating. Our team leaders know what the tasks are that are being done. We can help redistribute that. If you're going alone and someone's sick, Darren, recently there was a typhoon in the Philippines. I know a lot of people that were going direct, and they've lost their team member for 2 months.
Yeah, the typhoon was a real hit there, and that would be a problem for people in that situation.
It's also understanding, more often than not, if there's going to be a power outage, the team members know. We have a number of team members that have got power generators. We're trying to encourage more to get power generators in case, power goes down, gets wiped out. Dealing with people that are sick, Darren, I remember, with my rent roll, I tried to reduce the amount of in-office staff, and now we have a lot of staff in a real estate business, basically, that we're running, but we're providing support to so many real estate agencies. So
I know that what you've been doing, your Teams by Design has an amazing array of resources now that would make any Australian business enviable. I can't think of probably one real estate office that has all the positions that you've got lined up. With your quality assurance officers, with a HR person, with social media, with graphic artists, and video. We got 2 full-time video editors. So there's all those things that you've got loaded. Let's just keep on going. So at this point, when you recruit someone, there's a training period. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So once we've done the introduction to the client, and the client says, yes, I want to work with that person there, we then put them through an intense, 7-10 days of learning everything about Australian real estate or New Zealand or UK, so that, and we put them through the IGT training. We put them through other local training organisations relevant to the countries. We have Udemy channels. We've done slang. Not that they should speak slang in the country that they're working within, but so they understand what those slang words are, so that they understand, weather training, so they can identify how to find the news and the links and everything there. We also have training on understanding calls. We have training on being empathetic, sympathetic. Darren, we have like a Udemy account, and we have got hundreds of courses available on Udemy. In fact, with our team members, I let them go to Udemy or other courses online, select the course, and then we purchase the course for them so they can even upskill further. Too, that we're big on attending events ourselves, professional development. We always make sure we get the video recordings of the events. So all these high-class events around the world, our team have access to. Social media marketing world, content world, real estate coaching events. Like, they have got access to the best coaching. Business masterclass, Don Miller, the masterclass series that we have, everything. A lot of people that employ virtual assistants direct barely have access to any training, and they struggle giving any guidance. So while we're doing the training for the client, for the VA, when they are ready to work with you, they are above a junior and below a senior in book smarts. They really just need the practical experience. Whilst we're doing that, that's when we encourage you to go through and record your screen processes. Yes, we know how to do real estate. We have people doing most of the tasks. Fundamentally, real estate, property management across the world is quite similar. But we don't know how you do real estate. We don't know where you save documents. We don't know your nuances. So we need you to record the tasks we're doing for you exactly how you want them. And then when we go to start them, we'll do a live, like a Zoom with you, to make sure we're doing it in the right, saving things in the right place, leaving the notes in the right place, and the notes to your specification. Darren, believe it or not, most offices write notes differently. And we want to make sure the notes are clear and concise. And then when they're going live, they've got a great understanding. Now, it probably will take, it's not going to be an instant fit like anyone in your office. There's going to be that awkwardness, where's the bathroom? Where's the water cooler? Where's the fridge? Expect a period of somewhere between 2 weeks and potentially 6 weeks, depending on the tasks that you've got your team member doing, of becoming familiar with how you speak to each other, familiar with your office banter, familiar with your nuances, any other tasks. Because Darren, most people, when they recruit a virtual assistant for certain tasks, after a few weeks, they're like, you know what? I'm going to give them this, and I'm going to give them this task and this task. So, but then, as our company, Darren, we'll have a look at the tasks that you're assigning, make sure that the person has adequate time to complete the tasks. It's a big job, Darren. What a headache for some people. I feel for anyone going out there on their own and trying to recruit someone.
I can certainly see it's a big job, and you do an amazing job with so many people now that work for Teams by Design. So let's just wrap this up, Michael. If people want to reach out to you to chat to you, what is the quickest and best way to do that?
Quickest way, just go to the website teamsbydesign.com, contact us, just drop us a note, and we'll give you a call back, make a time to do a Zoom.
Yep. One of the team will be in contact. So well done. So yeah, great podcast there again. 5 steps to doing recruitment. It's a very crazy world out there if you want to do it yourself. You want to be careful of that, because it's like property management. So many landlords out there think that they can go and select the right tenant with their very minimal experience. You know how many pitfalls that they can go through tenant selection. Virtual assistants is the same. So you want to deal with someone with a lot of deep experience in finding people that will fit into your property management business. So thank you so much, Michael, and take care, everybody.
Thanks, Darren.